Hey everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. Thanks for joining me today. As powerful real estate tycoons, there are only 7 hotel chains in the world worthy of your attention. Using nothing but your wealth and wits, you must vie against other business moguls to manipulate construction and capitalize on mergers by buying, selling, and trading stocks to acquire the greatest return on your investment. The one who has amassed the most wealth by the end of the game is the winner. Acquire, originally released in 1964, but we're going to use the 2008 reprint for this video. Designed by Sid Jackson, published by a number of companies over the years, a game for 2 to 6 players with a playtime of roughly 90 minutes. So join me as we go through this setup and how-to for the game Acquire. To begin, let's take a quick look at the components that we're going to see during the course of play, beginning with the main play board. In the middle, this is where you're going to place all the tiles corresponding to their row number and letter. Along the left side of the board is where you're going to place the hotel tiles that you're going to use when being a founder of a new hotel chain. And on the right side, I know it's a little difficult to see in this image, but there is also a reference chart for everyone to see how many shares are needed in a company, as well as the value of those shares, including majority and secondary ownership. Here's a closer look at what that reference chart looks like. Each player should receive one so that they can always take reference and strategize exactly what they want to go for. These are the hotel tiles. Now there's 7 in total. Here's just 3 examples that you're going to use to place on the main board. Those hotel tiles should be placed on top of at least 2 of these tiles that you're going to both play and draw during the course of the game. In this version of Acquire, it comes with paper money, very similar to Monopoly in its texture and design. So this is going to be an example of 100, 500, and 5,000 currency that you're going to use to pay for those stocks. And lastly, some examples of a couple of the hotel chains and their stock certificates. Hand these out whenever you purchase a share in a hotel. Hey everyone, welcome to a setup for the game Acquire. The setup is the same for whether it's 2 or 6 players. So make sure that all players first receive a reference chart, which we're going to keep off camera just to save space. Make sure all players receive a standee for their tiles. Create a bank for access for the money. Create a stockpile for all the shares in the different hotels, and then place the hotel tile on their respective locations on the side of the board. Of course, setting up the main board as well. Lastly, you're going to want to create a pile for all the different tiles that you're going to be selecting from during the course of play. Once that's complete, give all players $6,000 in denominations of 4 1,000, 3 500, and 5 100. Once all players have received their standee, their reference chart, and their money, you're pretty much ready to begin play. So let's go ahead and create a pile for all the different tiles that are going to come out during play, which we'll edit this in just a moment. So to determine who would go first in the game, you're going to have all players randomly draw a tile and place it on the board. So this one being 4A, player 2 is 4D, and player 3 is 1C. Then the player closest to row A is the first player, so actually it went 1, 2, 3, or rather the first player is up here. Now, if they're both in row A, the person closest to 1A becomes first player. Once that initial tile and player is set up, you're going to want to have all players randomly draw 6 tiles to put face up behind their player board Let's go ahead and do it like this. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So once all players have then received their 6 tiles, you're ready to go through the 3 parts of play. So how to play the game. The game is played for each turn. A player is going to be able to do 3 phases of their actions. You're going to place a tile from your hand. Let me, I guess, put this down so that maybe you guys can see it. Oh well. So you're going to put a tile onto the game board. You're going to be able to buy up to 3 stocks of hotel chains that are available out in play. And then lastly, you're going to draw up a new tile. So playing a tile onto the board as your first action, you're going to look at the 6 that you have available to you, and then you're going to place them out there. So I'll just randomly take this 9C, and I'm sure I've got a better one, but then you're going to put it on its corresponding spot on the board, 9C. So that first phase of the turn is complete. Phase 2 is to buy up to 3 stocks. Now right now, there are no hotels created, so there are no stocks to buy. Next, I'm going to draw up a new face-down tile and bring it into play, like so. Then it goes around the table, and it's the next player's turn. So let's go ahead and reset that so that we can address what would happen in those first phases and what might happen. In that first phase, if you join 2 tiles together, now I don't really have any good examples, but let's just pretend for a moment this were a valid placement. That then allows you to create a hotel chain. Your objective is to pick whichever one is available and put it out there. So let's say I wanted to create tower. I would then take this tile, placing it right on top of the 2 tiles that created the hotel, like so. Now for finding a new hotel, the person that has been the founder of that new hotel receives 1 free share in that company's stock. Note that once all 7 hotel chains are on the board, no new hotels can be founded until a merger happens, which brings me into the next thing that could potentially happen on playing a tile. Well, I guess before we go into mergers, let's go into the next stage of what could potentially happen when placing a tile. You could place a tile, let's say right here, onto 8B, which then expands that hotel, making it a much larger hotel. And then if we look at our reference chart, as shown here, tower is now 3 sizes, which makes this, let's see, we would look here for tower, 3, and that is now valued at 500 per share. So this, if I own 1 share, there are 3 tiles, I now have, my tower is worth $500. So that's what it's like to grow a hotel. Next is going to be merging a hotel. So let's say, for example, So let's say, for example, there were for F, 4G, and 4H on the board. So let's pretend this is a newly created hotel. So you have a hotel that is 3 in size. So then let's say there were also a hotel here at 2F and 2G. So let's go ahead and just set that one out there. So now we have a hotel of size 3 and a hotel of size 2. So now the next player that were to come along and say place a marker here, this triggers then a merge of hotels. So by putting this here, you're now merging this 3 with this 2. In this case, the larger size hotel will always absorb the smaller hotel. But if, for example, let's just pretend, there we go, so 2H. Let's say they were of equal size, they were both 3 and 3, and then someone put a hotel right there, then the player placing it determines which hotel merges or absorbs the other. Once a merger is triggered, then you have three options. Option one is if you own any shares of that hotel, the one that is being acquired, you can sell them all off at the current price of three tiles for that hotel. Option two is you can trade in 2 shares of the old hotel to acquire 1 share of the new hotel. Or option 3, you can hold on to the hotel's share in hopes that it can be resurrected later on, and then you immediately have ownership in the new founded hotel. Because remember, once the hotels are absorbed, so let's say blue absorbs red, this goes back into the pool, thus making any shares worthless for the time being until Continental is brought back out onto the board. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pay out the majority and secondary ownership of them. So as the reference card indicates here, and my awesome camera reflection, you're going to pay out, depending on the hotel and the size, the number and then the number. So let's say, for example, this was, it's a 3 hotel. The majority shareholder would get $3,000. Secondary would receive $1,000. Or sorry, $1,500 on that one. If a player is a sole owner of the hotel, meaning they're both majority and secondary, they receive all the money. If there's 2 people that share it and they're tied, you would add them both up and divide it amongst them. Or if it's tied amongst a majority, you would equally distribute the majority between the players. Let's say there's 3 players of majority and only 1 of secondary. Then that $3,000 becomes $1,000 per person, and the secondary actually gets $1,500. And that's what happens when you place a tile. Phase 2 then is buying stock. So right now I've got a couple of hotels out here, so I could purchase any number of American or up to 3 shares of any stock in any combination. So I could buy, say, 2 Tower, 1 American, 3 American, what have you. So I'm going to be able to purchase up to 3. It doesn't have to be. It could be 1, 2 if I wanted, at the current price in accordance to its size and the chart, also located here on the board. And then once complete, I'll draw my tile back up so that I always have 6 in my play board. So that's it. That's the setup and then the taking the turns on the game. So how do you win? Well, at the end of the game, once all hotels are out there, one caveat, once a hotel reaches a size of 11 or greater, it can no longer be absorbed by any hotel chain, even if, say, this whole right side of the board were one giant hotel chain. It could never be absorbed by another, or it could never be absorbed if it's 11 or more. And then what you're going to do is at the end of the game, you're going to sell off all of your shares, and the person that has amassed the most money becomes the winner. And that's all there is to it. So for this video, guys, I'm not really going to go through taking a bunch of turns because, well, I've kind of already done that in this sort of setup. So you get the idea of placing a hotel tile. So let's randomly do that. So placing this, I would be able to purchase up to 3 shares of a hotel that is out there at the current price, and then draw up a new tile into my hand. Then it becomes the next player's turn. So let's say they were to place out this tile here, 6A. There we go, 6A. It doesn't do anything. They would be able to purchase up to 3 stocks of hotels that are out there, and then they too would draw up a new tile. Then the next player would do the same thing. They would go out here and they would say, grab a tile. No, let's not do that one. Let's do 5A. So then player 3 would be able to slide 5A into there and then become a founder of a new hotel. And they could place it on there right like so. And that is already a 3-tile hotel. And then they would receive a founder share in that company, just one. There we go. And then they would also be able to then purchase 3 shares. So they could also purchase 3 more of what hotel they just founded. And that's the play, guys. It'll continue through any number of rounds until all tiles have been placed and the end game is triggered. So what does that end game look like? Well, there's 2 ways that the game can end. After a player plays a tile out there, and on their turn they declare that a hotel chain is 41 tiles or more on the game board, then the game ends. Or after playing a tile, just throwing out here, let's say 8A, there we go, let's increase the size of that one. So once they place a tile out there, the player on their turn is able to declare that, let's say there were no more hotel chains left on the game board, to be able to put out there, and all hotels that were already created were safe, meaning they're all of size 11 or greater. So if there's no more way to validly create new hotels. So that's it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and tear down the board here, so stay tuned, and I'll bring you guys my afterthoughts. Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed that setup and a little bit of playthrough of the game Acquire. So I guess let's go ahead and dive right into, my thoughts on the game in general. I really enjoy this particular game. I'll be very honest, it wasn't until many prints later that I even learned of this game, but I'm very excited that I did. I guess my biggest gripe about the game is going to be in terms of the components. So this particular version, as you guys may have noticed, uses really flimsy paper money and chipboard for the tiles when you're placing them out on the main grid. So my, gripe here is that I really wish that they would have a an upgraded components so that they would be more Scrabble-like, right? So you've even got the boards where you're keeping kind of your Scrabble tiles, if you will, right out in front of you. So I really had wished that they would have been just this hard wooden stock pieces. And for the money, I would go something like what's in the game Brass and have like poker chips or iron clays, something with more sturdiness to it to make it really feel like I'm doing something in the game. Otherwise, the stock of the stocks, the card stock of the stocks is pretty decent, so I've got no problems with that. Why is this a game that you might want to add to your collection? Well, it's been around a long time, so the mechanics have really stood the test of time. So this is a good strategy game with a lot of randomness involved. And that randomness comes in terms of just randomly picking up the tiles, but the strategy comes in how you're going to use the tile hands that you've been dealt, if you're going to hold stocks that have merged, things like that. A reason why you may not want to add this one to your collection is primarily because of that randomness. It can be pretty silly, and depending on really how the tiles fall or go into your favor, and I've had this happen to me a number of times, but basically what would go down is, I would go and I would place a tile hoping that I could do something, but I would be put into a position of never being able to found a new hotel chain. And that little bit of money when you find a new hotel chain does add up. So that ultimately is kind of a huge drawback for me of this particular game, is that if you don't get that randomness in your favor and be able to be a founder of new hotel chains, then you could really start to lag behind quite a bit. So because of that, maybe you might want to steer clear of this, but otherwise, guys, a incredible strategy game that, like I said, stands the test of time after so many years. And this is definitely one that I really enjoy to get to the table. So my biggest gripe, components, I wish there was an upgrade, and I know that there's a new reprint that I hear does have some better components, but I still don't think to the level that I'd like to see. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this one. If you have any questions about the game Acquire, please leave a comment down below. Happy to help out in any way that I can. If you've enjoyed the content, really appreciate the support. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Definitely appreciate that. And until next time, everyone, thanks so much for watching.